the video of the day. And in the background, you can see my daughter Christina, who just stopped by to visit me. Today I've been going through the Gospel of John, and I finished at the ninth chapter. Some of you may recall. And by the way, I'm having a hard time talking because I got getting these blisters. It's part of the process when you have low platelets and low white blood cell count. Um, so if I look like I'm mumbling, that's why. But at any rate, so the man born blind, some of you may recall the story in John chapter 9. The disciples are asking Jesus, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he is born blind? And Jesus responds, it was neither this man nor his parents, but that the will of God may be manifested in his life. So what we learn from that immediately is that blindness, sickness is not a function. I'm doing a video. Can you give me like 5 minutes and I'll, yeah. Just checking on you. No. Then I'll do your book and. Oh yeah, really. Okay. So sickness is not always a function of sin in a person's life. Well, this became really relevant to me today because when I was first diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, I met a man named Donnie Myers, and Donnie is an African American man, and I'm a white man, as you can see, very white, increasingly white as I sit in this hospital room. And we were sitting in chairs right beside one another. We were both having chemo infused into our red blood. And for Donnie and for me, there was no such thing as white or black. It was only red. We were united as human beings. But even more than that, we were united by the blood of Jesus Christ. Donnie was a believer, and one of the greatest encouragements that I've ever received in my life. He knew the ropes. He'd been through cancer. He'd been through transplant. He'd been fighting multiple myeloma for about, I think, 7 years. So Donnie was my encouragement. He would sit next to me, and as the chemo ran into our red blood, we were united in the fact that we're humans, made in the image and likeness of God. There was no black or white. Donnie and I became great friends, and we were united in battling cancer. And Donnie would always tell me, Hank, you are going to make it. There is no doubt about it. You will make it. And Donnie checked out of the hospital the day that I checked into the hospital, on the 4th of this month in June. Why? Because Donnie was sent home to die. And, over the last, the days following him being sent home, he would call me in the hospital and he'd say, Hank, you are going to make it. There's no doubt about it. And he would remind me, he would say, Hank, we are brothers from another mother. And he'd always tell me, I love you more than you will ever know. Well, today I heard that Donnie went home to be with the Lord. Why did he die? Was it his sin? Was it the sin of his parents? No. It was so that the work of God would be manifest in his life. He touched my life. He touched the lives of so many others that came into the hospital. And now Donnie Myers is with the Lord. His family grieves, and I grieve. I cried today more times than I care to admit. I just kept breaking down and crying. Cried with my wife beside me. I cried by myself. I miss this brother who I only knew as a result of my cancer. Well, going back to the man who was born blind, there's something worse, Jesus points out, than physical blindness, and it is spiritual blindness. The teachers of the law had seen Jesus heal this man, and yet they would not believe. And so Jesus rightly accused them of being spiritually blind. And I suppose this is the condition of so many people as they walk through life. Miracles all around, the invisible hand of God visible through the miracles that he does. And even if he would never do another miracle, we know that all of this is real because Jesus Christ rose from the dead. As I was going through John, one miracle after another. Remember the miracle of changing water into wine. But this is not what is necessary to believe. Yesterday I talked in the video about Lazarus and the rich man, and Lazarus, of course, having a name, the rich man not even being named. But he wanted to go back or at least have Father Abraham send someone back and warn his 5 brothers, send Lazarus back, warn my 5 brothers so they don't come to this place of torment. And what was the enigmatic reply? Well, they have Moses and the prophets. If they don't believe that, they won't believe even if someone rises from the dead. So it's not just that we see God's hand in the world today, but we have his revealed hand in his revealed word today. And so even in the midst of pain and suffering and sorrow, we can believe. What do you think about all of that, Christina?
I think that's true. I think sometimes God called one of our deacons at our church talks often about how God can call us to suffer. We do a Bible study at the shelter that I work at, and you know,
Tell people what you do.
So I work for the Women's and Children's Shelter in downtown Charlotte. I work for the clinic during the day, and then the Boys and Girls Club in the afternoon. But and so we also do a Bible study every Tuesday night. That's a volunteering thing I do at 7. And yeah, it's just sometimes, we talk to people and we don't tell them this is why you're suffering or this is why you're suffering. We treat suffering in a different way, that, some people are called to suffer for one reason or another, and it's not that suffering, it's how often the harder thing is not the suffering in itself, it's how we react to suffering.
Yes.
And so we've talked a lot about that because the women don't want to be, placated. They want to know there's purpose in their suffering. We talked about one woman was talking to us, and in her suffering, she was able to impact somebody, just like Donnie and his suffering.
Oh, yes.
She saw a man that was homeless. Ironically enough, she was homeless. she had an orange in a water bottle. She had gotten it at the clinic, I believe, because we do health coaching there, and they get some fruit every once in a while when we do that. And so she's like, she saw the man, and she heard Jesus tell her that that is me. Feed me. And so she gave the man her orange and her water, all that she had. We even have a lady who is on a walker and her head's bent down, and she's very unseeming in some ways. She's got, you wouldn't think, you know, anything of her because she walks different, all these things. And well, last week she gave our deacon a check for $10. So in order to get a $10 money order, you have to go to a post office, and the closest post office is about 2 to 4 miles away. I think it was 2. So this lady that had a walker, that could barely walk because of a car accident, walked all the way down to the post office and back to get a money order to donate to the ministry that is doing the Bible study. And this week someone came in because she ran after them in her walker, like, come on, come to Bible study, come get fed. And the lady was really happy that she got to come and enjoy the Bible study. And a lot of people might look at this lady and say, oh, you're suffering, what's wrong? And we have to get you out of this. And she's like, no, I'm where the Lord needs me, and I'm impacting the Lord here. There's many women that she'll give out of her poverty to. She'll talk to people. She'll evangelize to them. Half of us think she's still in the shelter because any money she gets, she gives away. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of God's beauty in suffering.
Wow. Well, I'm in the nadir, and it's amazing how I anticipated that God's grace would be sufficient, and it is sufficient. Um, I'm just amazed at how the Lord gives me strength in the midst of a difficult circumstance. And I don't say that to um, bring any attention to myself as much as to say that you can be certain that no matter what you go through, God's grace is always sufficient. And as the man born blind could see spiritually, and the Pharisees who were born sighted were born in some sense, or became in some sense, spiritually blind. If you had a choice between the two, you choose physical blindness over spiritual blindness. And as Christina has well said, there's a purpose in suffering. The example of the lady was a story that touched me. I think I shared it in one of the other videos. It's just incredible. So here's a lady downtown Charlotte with a walker who is now the subject of a conversation that's touching the lives of people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Anyway, as always, I want to thank all of you for your prayers and your support. There's no doubt whatsoever that I sit here in my bed able to communicate, able to have peace as a direct result of you. Prayer really matters. Prayer really is firing a winning shot. Thanks for everything. So long for now.